So what kind of cap am I getting today? Because I mean, I've been talking to you a little bit, and I know that you've been on some kind of a journey that I don't know if your sanity is truly 100% to be sitting down and recording right now. Like, what time is it? How much like what's going on?
All right, so we have so many things to talk about that I think I'm just gonna like do a brief catch up. So last time we did the podcast, we didn't really have a whole lot to talk about. For
No.
whatever reason, I didn't talk about Artificial Gamer at all. That was good. All right, next topic. I had a voice acting gig that went really well. This time around, I was talking directly to the studio, and they were giving direction, and that went really well. They seemed to really like me. I did 3 different characters for them, and sounds like they want to be able to hire me more for other stuff. So super awesome. Very, very happy with that. Then TI flying came around. I flew up to see my mom for like 2 days, and then I flew out of Portland. So I went Portland to Seattle, Seattle to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Bucharest.
Mhm.
Flights were fine. Nothing really to complain about there.
Do you get like business
They
class?
did lose my luggage. They did lose my luggage. And no, we do not get business class. That is something that has been provided a bit for some tournament organizers this season because of COVID concerns. I just tell them like, look, I don't want to be around people, like especially when there wasn't a vaccine and stuff. But that was like, a limited number of talent.
Mm-hmm.
When you do business for TI, you kind of have to apply it to everyone. So that's 18 teams with 5 players each. That's 90 right there. There's 30 talent basically. So there's 120 business class flights.
Just
Just that. Then you include any plus ones. Yeah.
rent one plane and have it fly across, like have one plane be like the school bus that just picks everybody up and brings them to TI.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be the first guy who gets picked up. It's like the first guy who gets picked up in the school bus, He's got a long ass time to wait as everybody else gets picked up. So that would suck. But they ended up losing my bag. I only have one of the 2 bags. I have the important bag, which is my clothes bag. But that I did not have my luggage for the first like 24 hours. And so I forgot to include extra clothes in my carry-on like I normally do. So I was wearing the same clothes, and I was
Mm.
quarantined. And so here's the process: when we get in, it's like you get in, you do some registration stuff, you get a badge, you get like a little GPS tracker sort of thing. Doesn't actually track you, but it keeps record of like the people that you are around that also have a tracker. So to for contact testing, right? So the you do all that registering, and then you go and you get your PCR test, and you have to then quarantine until you get the results. And they said max 12 hours. Well, the problem is everybody came in, lots and lots of people came in on the same day. So I ended up getting in at like 1 p.m. and I didn't get my results back almost like 24 hours later. I think it was like 10 a.m. or something the next day. So I was just stuck in my hotel room, like literally could not leave my hotel room for like 20 hours.
You know what bothers me
So
about that
that
is
was a
if
little sad.
you're not having extra clothes. Like I'm kind of okay if you're just by yourself. You don't have to worry about like you feel gross, right? But like the smelly thing is like okay, it's yourself. You can kind of make do. But I really don't like, 'cause I had to do this before, when you have to take a shower and then the only clothes you have to put back on are your dirty
Yes.
clothes from the airplane. It feels
Gross.
it's
Yes.
like a shirt, like pants, okay, but like particularly socks. Like at that point, I'm just going
Yes.
sockless.
Yeah, I did have an extra pair of socks, but I forgot the extra pair of underwear and shirt that I usually bring.
Mm.
So, because I agree, bottoms are like the most reusable. They say there's no difference between wearing a pair of jeans for like 3 days and 30 days, bacteria wise, apparently. I might totally be misquoting that, but so it's yeah, that sucked. But what sucked even more was my laptop. There's a lot of things in my regular luggage. I had my laptop on my carry-on, but the charger, because I don't have very much room on my carry-on, the charger was in my suitcase. So I just didn't basically have a laptop for the first 24 hours I was here, where I was quarantined into my room and couldn't do anything else. I didn't have toothbrush, all those regular amenities. Um, so yeah, my first 24 hours here sucked. I also didn't have my sleeping pills, which I usually only use one or two of them the first couple of nights when I get to a place to try and kill off jet lag right away. I didn't have that, so I fell asleep at like 9:30 p.m. yesterday, woke up at 2 a.m. or 1:30 this morning. So that's how long I've been awake. It's now I took a nap. I took like a 2-hour nap right before this, which I'm a little bit surprised I woke up, but yeah,
I
it's
was
like 11 p.m.
I was fully expecting to not do the show for like another 12 hours because I thought that you were gonna get like passed the fuck out, and I was just gonna be on standby for you waking up. So when you did arise from the dead, I was pleasantly surprised. Like I think that your lack of baggage bred some innovation. You had what I would call a very humorous stream yesterday because you were sleep deprived and streaming live off of your cell phone. Just to hang out with people like that's the level of neuroses that was going on, which was great. And anybody who wants to go check out Cap Spots and just hang out and have breakfast with him, like honestly, not bad content.
Yeah, like P Flags does his like P Flags in the morning sort of thing, and I have nothing to entertain me but my phone. And let me just say, when you're on your phone constantly, your thumbs like literally get tired, like the bendy part of your thumbs, right? So I was just like, I couldn't. Also, like, what is there to do on your phone? Like, sure, there are some mobile games that you
Mobile
can play and
Legends
stuff
Bang
like that,
Bang.
but you could play Mobile Legends Bang Bang, rocking the shirt right now at TI, baby.
Yeah, I'm sure
I've
Valve's
been
gonna love
walking
that.
around. I'm still waiting for a Valve employee to notice and say something. But yeah, it's like you're gonna be on social media constantly. That's what you're gonna be, and that's not really good for your state of mind.
No.
So
Are you in a room by yourself? Or are you quarantining with Ellie? Like what's that
no,
like?
I'm quarantining by myself. That is a little wrinkle. We're gonna talk about all the wrinkles that came up at this TI.
It
One of
hasn't
the
even started
wrinkles,
yet.
yes, one of the wrinkles was and I want to be clear. I'm going to have some. I'm not happy about this situation, but I don't really blame Valve that much. Um, in hindsight, very easy to say we should have done a 2-week bubble. Yada yada yada. Um, but because of the COVID thing that happened with Aster and IG, which we'll talk about in a second. Because of that, they canceled all plus one. So the first step was they canceled plus ones for talent. So Ellie, who is Romanian, was obviously going to come with me to TI, and she still did. But we found out like less than 24 hours before we flew. We both me and her were already at my mom's, ready to fly to Bucharest when we got the heads up that no plus ones. They can't be in the hotel with us. They're not gonna. They might be able to get a ticket. Was the initial word. So yeah, it was like we had this whole entire trip planned out. So I empathize with a lot of people when they're like,
Dude.
my shit's been canceled. It fucking sucks. I'm like, I empathize with that a lot.
Dude. That makes sense from a logistic standpoint, but like oof. 24 hours is pretty rough. Like at least people had like a week. Like a lot of people probably didn't fly to Bucharest yet in theory who like couldn't go to TI, but you were basically on the airplane and you're like, "Hey, your partner can't come."
Yeah, yeah, like 24 hours, but like less than 24 hours, we have to have a conversation. It's like, okay, do you still want to go? Like, because she's Romanian, she like still has a reason to go because she wasn't necessarily going to be here for the event itself. She was more so to be able to for us to be together, and then she could also do she's got some work stuff that she can do here in Romania. So yeah, so we decided, okay, she's still gonna go, but it requires us to book a separate hotel, right? And it can't be this hotel is booked out. I think the entire thing is booked out by Valve. I think. I actually haven't confirmed that. So we had to book an entirely different hotel and a 3 week trip. The first 2 weeks, we're not going to be able to see each other at all. We're staying a few extra days after TI, so we'll be able to obviously see each other then because Valve can't stop us from doing that. But it's yeah, it's like the first 2 weeks of this, we got on a plane together, got off, and then just separated,
See ya.
and now we're just yeah, exactly. So it's that really sucks because for those who don't know, my birthday falls during this TI.
Mhm.
And it looks like, if we keep this schedule, then my birthday is always going to be at TI, which is kind of cool. But for this TI, it means we just don't get to see each other for my birthday. So I don't care about that so much because I don't care about dates and I don't really care about birthdays. But Ellie wasn't super happy to learn that, where it's like, okay, that's just one more thing that blows about this situation. So
At least y'all are on the same time zone, which makes things like easier to like be connected, I guess, right? Like I don't know, silver lining. Do you said something? If we keep the schedule, do you think is that like the current wisdom that we're gonna just consistently have TI in October now, as opposed to August?
I don't know. It's all up to whether or not, like, if Valve wants to fit in 3 seasons, right? I think you have to delay TI to some extent. Either that or you have to start the next season of DPC like literally right away after TI ends. So, if they're going to keep 3 seasons, I think you have to push TI back. Maybe they're only going to do 2 seasons like last year and keep it shortened. But yeah, if we keep this schedule, then yeah, that'll be a recurring theme. So yeah, that was how my travel and stuff went. It was just like, okay, this is already going to shit, and we haven't even been there yet. That's great.
Well, what? Speaking of going to shit, if you lean your chair back, do you touch any other chairs, or do you have enough room in your bedroom to be able to,
I've got the whole room.
Dude, why don't you just let Team Spirit come over or anybody else? They can just like set up a corner with a PC with all the extra luxurious room you have.
It's true. Yeah. So teams ended up getting COVID. Aster, number one. IG, JT ended up getting sick. I don't remember if anybody else from their team. Don't think anybody else has gotten it yet. And with the strict rules being in place by Valve in response to like obviously when that sort of thing happens, you have to make everything a lot tighter. Plus, the Valve bubble didn't start. The Valve led bubble did not start until yesterday, when we all flew in and did our quarantine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, it has been isolated, and that won't be a problem for the rest of the event. But um, everything is kind of strict. And I don't know if that has led to the current room situation where there is at this moment a bunch of teams not happy with their practice rooms because like there's like Spirit who's like literally in some sort of like fucking weird ass kitchen where they can hardly move around. They can barely, all of them sit at their desks. If they back up their chair, they're running into one of their teammates. It just seems like a real unfun place to be when you're supposed to be practicing for what is potentially the most important tournament of your life, the most important potential moment in your life, right? This moment can change your entire life. Even if you don't win, just placing like top
Eight.
3 is life-changing money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be top 16 for some people who have never had a penny, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this is so yeah, that is a lot of teams complaining about that. Apparently it seemed it like I have no idea. I don't have a whole lot of inside information because again, I was quarantining until about 11 hours ago. So maybe more. The so I don't have any inside information about this. We are not in contact with the teams. Like I see them around, but we're not supposed to like actually interact with anybody a whole lot. So I don't know anything about this, but I read that like they might have done the team like the team rooms are not all the same, and some teams have better rooms than others. And they might have done that based off of DPC points because LGD seems to have a very nice room, and all the qualifier teams have, and I say nice, I just mean it's big and expansive, and they can move
Room,
around and
yeah,
roll their
yeah.
chair around.
It's
Yeah.
not a kitchen.
Whereas all the qualifier teams seem to be like trapped in this small little fucking box. So, yeah.
But I mean, at least they have the box. I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you know what kind of rules they're imposing on people like in practice rooms? Because like so all that I know about is like comparing this to what's going on with Riot, right? And right now like
Mhm.
at Worlds, which is starting now soon in hours from recording, um they like people can't even so much as eat or drink inside of their practice rooms because masks can't come off, and they have like guards to make sure that there's enough people in certain rooms. So everything is like super strict, and it looks like there's not even enough room in these in Bucharest to space people out properly. So like are more restrictions being added as people are getting COVID, or like with the scare with IG and Aster, or is it just kind of like a don't ask don't tell thing, or like what's going on with people?
Yeah, PGL and Valve read up on American military practices. Don't put this on social media. Yeah, I think that I don't know. I have not seen one of these practice rooms in person, but judging by the videos I've seen from the teams, it's definitely more than just the teams that are in the room, like just the five people in the room. I don't remember. Like you could just probably just look at Reddit and like look at the pictures and stuff to see if anybody's not wearing a mask. In some ways, like I feel like that riot thing is like a little extreme, but considering everything that's happened so far with this TI, it's obviously maybe better to be more extreme than less. Um, but yeah, I don't know if there are regulations about them not taking out their mask inside a practice room. I kind of assume so, especially since IG JT got it, but the rest of his team hasn't. Like that's just one indicator of like, hey, somebody could potentially get it. If you guys are wearing masks like constantly around each other, like you can actually isolate it away from one player and the rest of the team won't catch it. So even if it's not the practice, I feel like most teams are going to um, use that anyway. So, but I also have seen teams with varying
Care.
concerns about the COVID in general over the season. I've seen some people who are like fucking double mask, like plastic gloves on at all times, and I've seen other people who are like, "Why do I have to put on a mask?" And this was before vaccinations, so like the level of concern here can vary wildly based off of the team and players. So.
You feel pretty like I know that there's been just on Reddit and in general some like bashing of Romania and Bucharest in particular because of their own politics or COVID response or just what's going on. Like, have you felt relatively safe yourself just in the hotel room once you settled down, but you're probably not like going outside, or like how do you
Yeah,
feel
it's
being
like
there?
it's like every other country. Let's see. Okay, so the thing is, this will probably lead into the PPD thing. So PPD did put out, he pulled out and put out a social media post saying that he wasn't going to come to TI. I believe his reasoning was that it felt a little unsafe and not worth the effort, basically. So Peter decided not to come here, and um,
After that signature came out though, he got that signature money.
okay, so that is funny, and it is a good joke. But I will say to Valve's credit, that Peter, obviously when he didn't just like blindside Valve with that, right? He let them know beforehand in back channels, and so he had already said, "I'm not gonna come," and Valve was like, Valve eventually, once they figured out what everything they wanted to do, they let us know that like any of us were free to decline if we did not feel welcome. They said there would be no hard feelings about that. And they also said you would still keep your signature. They said, like, if you're gonna pull out, like, don't worry. We're putting in signatures very soon. You guys will keep that if you don't want to be involved. So to their credit, they seemed
Yeah, that's nice.
I mean, to be fair, it's also like I don't think you have another choice, right? Because if you're like, oh, we're gonna hold this as a grudge against you. Like if you are in any way being like what do you mean you're not coming or something like that, right? Then you are immediately a really bad guy, right? If that ever becomes public and they were like, "Mm, no, you really should come," and like because it's naturally the concern is safety, right? So if you are ever trying to push that the other direction of being like encouraging people to be less safe, you're not you're
It's
not a
bad.
good person.
Yeah,
So
it's bad
I don't think
politics.
Valve had it. Yeah, it's bad politics and it's bad morality, I think, in some ways. So, I think what Val did was nice and stuff like that, and I do think they genuinely mean all that. But also, I'm not sure if there's another option there. But that's just from my perspective. But yeah, it was. I thought it was nice of them that they let us know that we would still keep our signature if we chose to pull out and stuff like that. So, um, yeah. Why did we talk about this again?
I
Oh, safety,
because to
safety.
see how
How
to see
safe I
yeah
feel.
how do you feel?
So Peter probably hasn't traveled a whole lot during this COVID situation. Most people haven't. I am probably one
Guilty.
of the people who's traveled the most during this situation. That's because my financial lifeblood is dependent on being able to attend these sort of events. And I think with reasonable precautions and safety, I'm okay with it. So I'm willing to take that risk, and I've taken that risk several times by now. And now that there's a vaccine, it feels like I feel even safer to take that risk. But I could definitely see a big difference just in our like casual WhatsApp group, where the talent have like an official WhatsApp group with Valve members and like stuff like that for official communication, and then we've got a separate one that's just like us, so we can bullshit with
Shit
each other,
posting. It's the
right?
shit posting WhatsApp.
It's the shit posting channel, and you could tell. Like you could always tell, like when travel time was coming up, like who hadn't traveled during this period of time and who had. Just because like people were like, oh shit, like like this guy in front of me is like coughing or something like that, or like I saw there's somebody not putting their mask all the way up, and they're like really concerned about that, which I totally empathize with because that was my feeling the first time I traveled during COVID. But like obviously you just become desensitized to these sort of things. It's not a good thing because it probably means you're being less disciplined. You should be hyper aware of these things, but the people who had traveled were just like not phased whatsoever because this is and if anything it's a safer time to travel than when we traveled before. So do I feel safe in Bucharest? If I were to go outside, no. But then again, I didn't feel safe in Sweden either, because Sweden doesn't wear masks either.
Hmm.
So
I'm really
yeah.
anxious. I have that flight to Hawaii in 2 weeks for the wedding, and I am so anxious about
Mm.
just because I know that I'm gonna be relatively safe. I know that there like isn't a ton to worry about outside of the risks that are like in my head, right? But as soon as someone on that airplane coughs, I'm gonna have like a cold sweat.
Oh, that was the other thing is that again, I think this is a nice thing, but I also think it would be an incredibly shitty thing to do the opposite of this. Is that they also let us know that like if we caught COVID here and like we couldn't obviously we wouldn't be able to work. They said that we would still get paid, which is like a concern when you go to these events. Like obviously I would push any tournament organizer like I should still get paid. Like I got sick attending your event, like
Mhm.
and that's generally the understanding for like non-COVID things. Is like I get if I get food illness or something like that, like that's just the effects of traveling. Like you can't dodge that. I'm still expecting to get paid for that day. So yeah, but that was another thing that Valve let us know because that it's obviously like for most people, TI, I would say makes up for anywhere between 15 to 50% of their yearly income
That's a
as
lot.
a commentator.
It's a
Yeah, it's
lot.
a lot. It's a lot, right? So obviously, so that my biggest concern was catching COVID before. My biggest concern was the PCR test that I apparently did not need. I didn't use that paperwork at all. The PCR test I took before I flew out. That was my biggest concern. I was like, once I'm there, like whatever, like all good. But like if I'm prevented from going, I may not be getting paid, and that would really that would fucking harsh my buzz real hard this whole entire year.
Well, I'm glad that everybody is there, and I mean, sans Peter, but like everyone is there. Everyone at this point we think is fine, and at this point,
We've all
and
gotten
like,
tests back, I think, for, well, not some people traveled in today, but of the people that traveled in yesterday, which was probably about 75% of the talent, everyone's been cleared for their PCR tests. So
is that what your green wristbands for? That you can go around the hotel. You're COVID
it is
safe.
actually. Yeah, this is you have to wear this wristband. It's actually the vaccination wristband. So
Oh
they
wow.
check your vaccine. Yeah, check your vaccination card, and then you get a wristband, so you don't have to bring your vaccination card everywhere.
Are you gonna like very quickly understand all of your colleagues who aren't vaccinated because they don't have a wristband? Is that gonna be
I
like
think
a weird social thing?
I okay, so I don't actually have any confirmation on this, but I think that they might have. Did you hear about this? Did any teams come in early to Romania specifically to get vaccinated?
I have
Or am I
not.
just
I have not heard about that, but I'm also with Liquid not participating like an ounce more out of the loop than I would
yeah,
otherwise be.
yeah.
So,
And I also don't know like what the vaccination rollout is in all countries that like are involved with TI.
well, I mean,
So I
I'm
don't
not
know
even
if
thinking
like
about
if it's
players.
possible for everybody to get it, but
I'm not even thinking
all the
about players.
talent
I'm thinking.
have
I'm
it.
thinking about co-talent, right? Like if you walk around
Yeah.
and suddenly you see like Frankie without a wristband, you're like, ooh.
Yeah, I haven't actually thought about that because I just assumed that everybody was vaccinated here because they also made attending the event as just a initial crowd to require vaccination. So honestly, I just assumed that everybody behind the scenes that was coming here was vaccinated, but that I guess that may not be the case. But I also haven't heard what the regulations for people who are not vaccinated. So that leads me to believe that everyone here is. But if there is, I don't know what special procedure they have to go through.
It's gonna get
Um,
real gossipy real quick. You're gonna be like, "Oh my god, did you see that Vlad isn't wearing a wristband? Oh my god, I knew it. I knew he was an anti-vaxxer."
he always had the vibes to me, anti-science. You could just tell. Yeah. Well, now that you've said that, I'm going to be noticing that. I'm going to be looking around. Anybody not have a wristband?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is funny. Isn't that the fucking what is it? The Scarlet Letter? That's
Yep. Yep. Except not like that, but also yep that.
it's the opposite. Yeah. Yeah. So all the talent seem to be here or arriving here, and good to
when
go
when do
so
you actually
far.
start working?
Group stages on the 7th. We did actually have a meeting today. That was like a storyline meeting. Sometimes this happens for tournaments and production, where you sit down as a crew, talent, and production to be able to talk about what are the storylines for individual teams, and you're able to drum up both narratives for other talent and stuff to be able to share information with each other, but also to be able to drum up production assets that can assist in certain narratives. For example, I think I gave them a stat that they were going to draw to. Oh, so for example, we were talking about, okay, like Puppy, the only person to have attended all the TIs, right? And one thing that I wanted to point out was the fact that we've been doing this countdown for a long time, but now like Puppy, the last man standing, hurrah, all that sort of thing. And that's really cool. But along the way, we've been cutting off people, and we haven't like checked back with them. So for example, Lonham, he has been here for every single TI except TI 7. He got cut off all the way back at TI 7. But he effectively has still attended the same amount of TIs as Kuro and was also a Dota 1 legend at the same time, right? So he has a long, long history of excellence at TI, but he doesn't get the same kind of proclamations because he got cut off at TI 7, and didn't make it to those latter listings. Also because he hasn't won a TI. I think the highest placing he got was like third at one of the early TIs. The highest amount of money he's made was 1.2 million at TI 5.
But we're talking about 11 years of consistency, right? Like,
yeah, more so because he was Dota 1 legend as well. He was on Nirvana China, so he, like, even going back to Dota 1 days, he was near the top, right? So even more than 11 years, I would say. Probably more like 12, 13, maybe 12. So and so they're like, oh, okay, well, let's draft up a production asset that allows us to be able to show like people who have attended how many TIs people have attended, basically, right? And we'll be able to look at people like, so there's going to be Puppy at top, and then there's going to be, Kuro famously was the other person who was second, but right next to Kuro is going to be Lonham because they both missed a TI at this point. So
I'm interested in someone who was gonna miss a TI, but now is no longer missing a TI. Mr. Eye Patch Man himself, Seb, who has had an interesting week. I think, like, so I guess backstory, right? Seb had ocular surgery, was anticipating likely not being able to play TI, and didn't really boot camp with the team.
Yep.
Yeah. He proceeded to have Mickey come and stand in, which I knew about for reasons. And it's like, oh, cool. Like, what's it going to look like if, Mickey's playing on OG for TI? That's like really dope for a bunch of reasons that I'm super into, right? And then it gets semi-confirmed / leaked. And then everybody makes news about it. Oh my god!
It was pretty damning. Like semi-confirmed is like it's literally a screenshot of a chat between Koifa and Mickey and talking about how Mickey was playing with OG, but now he's not. Seb is back. Oh, that sucks. Mickey in that it actually makes Mickey look really good because he's like, no, like, it's all good. Like he made a comparison to like the Boxy Sumail situation. It's like, it's what we did as well. Like, I'm sure Mickey would have been excited to attend TI, but he seemed genuinely happy for Seb to come back. So that was something that I noticed about that, that conversation.
Mickey's a good boy. Whether people know it or not, Mickey's a really good boy.
Yeah, he's a quiet boy that doesn't, like, people don't know a shit ton about him, but he's a nice kid for sure.
But, regardless of the Mickey situation, now the news is like Seb is coming back and playing after having his eyeball almost detached from his head. And OG is playing as originally intended, even if they didn't really get the boot camp that they wanted because he wasn't participating in that. So I'm interested in in following their story more so than I was previously, because I'm like, How much does that TI prep really going to matter for a team like OG, who's basically their MO is just being wacky and wild?
Yeah.
Do they need
There's
that practice?
it, dude, the odds makers for OG are probably it's all over the place, right? Because you have OG making it through the qualifier, but making it through the qualifier doesn't mean anything, right? That doesn't magically put OG lower because that's how they originally won TI was having a close qualifier match against Wind and Rain. And then they go on to win TI8. So they're a qualifier team. So it's already hard to judge exactly where they are. But very likely, I think some bookmaker had them at like third highest percentage to be able to win TI, which I honestly don't think is too far off the mark. I would put them more like fifth.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I
Third
think
feels a
that's maybe
little
a little
high.
bit.
Third feels a
Yeah,
little high.
and again, I think it's like I think it's like very hot or cold. I think they're a great team, but I think it's like very potentially hot or cold, right? Where like I think EG is almost guaranteed top eight. I don't think it's unreasonable that OG would go out 9 through 12, But I also don't think it's that unreasonable that they win the full thing, right? There's a huge amount of like parity in that regard. So the odds makers for OG have to be all over the place, right? Because they don't know where to place them at first, and then all of a sudden rumors come out. Oh, Seb can't play. Oh, there's no crowd. Or wait, how did that go? Oh, okay. So the Seb situation first. Wait, no. We didn't know if there was a crowd. So then we found out there is a crowd. OG stock goes up, right? OG playing under a crowd. Other teams suffer. OG excels at that, right? And then we find out, oh no, Seb. Seb's an integral part of that team. His leadership, I think, is a huge part of the reason why OG, from a mental standpoint, is able to perform so well under the most pressure you could possibly have as a Dota player. OG stock plummets. And then they get Bikke. Okay, decent standard, but kind of like, not an offlaner. That's kind of weird. Maybe it plummets even more. And then you find out no crowd. OG's stock plummets even further. There's no crowd. That's OG's like entire fucking deal. They love playing under a crowd and they think other people play worse under a crowd as well. So it's like the mental game that OG usually has over other people is totally gone. So it's like OG's chance, all of a sudden they're like fucking there at the bottom. And then we find out that Seb's back, and now it's like, oh shit, is OG gonna do it again despite all odds? It's a wild story going on with them.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to the bookie because right, like what you just described is actually really funny if you made it into like an animated skit. Like you could take that and turn that into like an SNL-esque bit.
Yeah, or even just the gif of the sketch show, the sweating, just fucking sitting there just sweating the entire. Oh fuck, like where do I place these guys? It's my job to like be able to determine probability of them. Yeah.
It's interesting that the more that I look about TI prep and the more that I look at like predictions and fill in my own predictions, it's been a while since I've seen such a unanimous like this team feels like they're gonna win. Like the hype behind PSG LGD at this point almost seems too big.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Like I understand
Yeah.
that this team is almost certainly coming into the event as the front runners in everybody's mind. I know nothing about scrims. I don't know what's going on. But just the fact that like everybody's like they're the people, like that makes me think they're gonna fuck up somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm of two minds of this because it seems like LGD is able to play a little bit more loose than other teams. And so I think that goes into how well you succeed at TI. I think rigidity is not a good thing because stress can break you. You need to be able to bend in that regard, both drafting and strategy wise, as well as mentally. LGD seems like one of those teams who is more likely to perform despite being the clear favorites. But yeah, it is also like a big problem. And then there's also the fact that like Ame specifically has already gone through his own trials and tribulations at a TI where he's kind of held as like people look back at TI8 and they blame him for LGD not beating OG because he did choke a little bit in at least the upper bracket final. I think it was maybe the game five
Yep.
of or game three of upper bracket final. I think it was maybe I don't remember quite as well his performance at the grand final, but like people hold that like that's your fault, right? And so now it's a redemption time, but it's also like if that same pressure broke you once, like how much do people really change in that regard? Like we always loved like a good hero's journey and like, oh look, like he had this problem, he now recovered from it, and look at him perform. He has that final moment. Is it gonna break him again? No, he does it. Oh look, his broken arm is perfectly fine and holds strong or whatever, right? That same thing is gonna happen to Ame, and we're gonna see whether or not he is changed at all as a person to be able to keep a clean game. So yeah.
I know that we've talked about this in like two or three different contexts at this point, but I wonder if maybe Ame is benefited by the fact that there's no crowd. Maybe there's a bunch of players who are going to receive a mental boost by not hearing USA or OG or like people cheering. Like there's going to be all this stuff that just doesn't happen in the venue, which is normally just adds to the stress and the ambiance and the importance of TI. And it's not to say that that stuff doesn't happen in other lands, right? Like every land you get, like cheers and boos and all that good stuff, right? But like TI is different. It's bigger. The magnitude is bigger.
I mean, that just made me think of COVID aside entirely. One player, there's a massive difference just where this TI is happening. Remember what happened last year? Cuckoo? Remember that? He walks out and he's just 20,000 fans. Fuck you, Like that is a ton of fucking hatred that was coming his way. So even just having TI in Bucharest, that could just mean a much better performance individually from him because he doesn't have to put up with that. Now there's no crowd as well. So that like he is a benefactor of that. I think maybe Secret might be a benefactor of that, just because obviously they've underperformed most TIs. I think underperforming at TI 9, like they got fourth. Like I feel like even if you are the favorite, you get fourth at TI. I don't feel like that's underperforming. That's just the nature of the beast. That's just the nature of what TI is. So. But other years, obviously, you can pretty clearly say that they underperformed.
Was there any writing for you on the walls, like behind the scenes, that this was going to happen? Like did you anticipate that we were going to get this close and then suddenly go, nope, no crowds? Because it didn't really hit for me until I think probably about 12 hours ish before the initial announcement. There was a Reddit post on updated guidelines from like Bucharest city council and stuff about indoor events. And it was just people like reporting the news, and some people were like, oh, I'm sure Valve accounted for this, they probably sold half the seats. Other people were like, there's no way that happened, they probably sold the whole arena out. And I was just like, oh, this is like an interesting piece of news that I don't think people are really talking about enough. And then like clockwork, a couple hours pass, and then bam, press release, hey everybody, tickets refunded. So I think that those have to be linked a little bit, but surely this wasn't the plan until hands really got forced about it, and there was like no way to accommodate.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember that Valve took a really long time to put tickets on sale in the first place, right? So they obviously really wanted to wait as long as possible to prevent that situation of like, okay, buy your tickets, and then we end up canceling. So they tried to wait it out for as long as possible, and they still got fucking bit. That it was the writing on the wall. I mean, maybe a little bit when I heard that like Talent Plus ones were canceled. And like there was a little bit there, but even then, I don't think that Valve necessarily knew 100% that they weren't going to be having a crowd because we were talking about whether or not R+1s would still get a ticket at all to TI and like that sort of thing. So I didn't really have a whole lot of heads up on that. I know one of my subs, guy called Chuckle Crusader, he's like already in Romania. and he messaged me. He was like, like, hey, I don't want to. I'm not like fishing for rumors or anything, but like, if you have any knowledge, if you have anything to give me about whether or not I should be coming out to Romania or like, that sort of thing, I'd love to hear it. But I didn't really have anything to give him because there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge there.
There's
So
probably what, a couple hundred people, maybe more, who had a really bad week last week with this news because they're either out a bunch of money, or they can't,
yeah.
or they're already there, or they made arrangements. And it's it's interesting to see the dialogue of people who are like, oh yeah, that sucks, like I feel bad for them, but also the, oh well, this is totally their fault, like they should have expected this, they're silly, like it's COVID, right? And it was interesting for me to read, just from like a humanity standpoint, the responses that were given to the people in these circumstances, because some people were just like really empathetic, other people were like, get fucked, loser. And I think that naturally I skew an ounce more on the empathetic side of, oh boy, is that not fun, especially for anybody who, like, is losing a lot of money. But I don't know.
Yeah, I saw some numbers thrown around. There was a very angry guy in my chat for my IRL stream that had like he kept on copy pasting this at me to try and get my attention. He said he lost like $5,000, and like I empathize with that. I had to spend an extra like Ellie is here, but like the purpose of the trip, right? The what we paid for the flight is I'm not getting that benefit of what we originally planned. Even if she did still take the flight, and then we also pay an extra $1,000 for hotel room for the next 2 weeks. So I do empathize with that quite a bit.
It's not a bad
But
hotel room price for 2 weeks.
yeah, Romania is a relatively cheap country, so for European countries. So
Yeah, well, I guess if you're someone who was left out by Ti, respond to the comments below, and I'll give you a little heart. Also,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Oh boy, that's not fun.
yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It's not going to be. There was a lot of doom and gloom. Like when PPD said that he wasn't gonna go, like the top comment was like, "This is just the first of many," and then like literally nobody else did that because like Peter probably doesn't he probably doesn't need the money. Attending TI probably doesn't matter as much to him as full-time talent, right? That's what we work towards the full year, right? So like it means a lot more both financially and like career wise, but also on like personal level, like of an achievement, it matters a lot more to like the full-time talent and stuff. So it's like yeah, there was a lot of doom and gloom that I was seeing. People are saying like this TI is just going to be terrible and sort of thing. I still don't think that this TI is like ruined by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be missing some TI magic. There's no doubt. It's not going to be the same. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the competition itself won't be good, that we won't have a fantastic story at the end of this for the people who have failed or succeeded at the biggest tournament of the year. And yeah, like like obviously it's not going to be as good as previous years, but I also don't think that we're not going from 100% to fucking 10%. We're going from 100% to like 75%. It's missing something for sure, but I think it's still going to be a good event.
I'm
If like no other COVID concerns pop up.
Yeah, that's a big if. Like, I mean, there is still, worst case DEFCON scenarios that could happen, but I think that we've hopefully avoided them by now, and the measures in place would like avoid, full breakouts or anything like really problematic. But fingers crossed. I'm, on a personal note, worried about following TI and really getting to have the TI experience. It doesn't quite feel to me yet, and hopefully this changes in the next like 48 hours, but it doesn't quite feel to me yet like, dude, it's TI.
Yeah, yeah. I think honestly, part of that is just not drumming up. There is no content that drums up hype for TI. For example, Liquid just put out their Worlds video, their music video that they do with sorry,
Avali,
I'm
Cap,
missing her
Avali,
Avala.
Raz, Captain Flowers.
I was thinking like Ophelia. It was an O name that I couldn't quite place. And which was a banger video, by the way. That was great. But we don't have content like that, especially coming directly from Valve, and that is something that I actually wanted to change. I wanted to create a content piece where it's just like a hype reel, you know, like 2, 3 sentences about each of the teams, and
Hmm.
like basically like. Um, you know, like it's like the TI down low, but condense that so much that it's only the hype. You only write like the hype piece of storyline about like what makes. I mean, we talked about this before. Unfortunately, that didn't really come to fruition. But I feel like that is something that could really help for like getting people invested in TI, whether you know COVID's a thing or not. But obviously, COVID is definitely the biggest downer because a lot of the hype that drums up is like crowd, people who are going to TI arriving and taking pictures and like, oh shit, I saw OGD, here's their bus. Like, oh, they're getting off, they were going into the stadium or they're at their hotels and like shit like that. It's like that is a large part of the hype that ends up getting drawn up. And the general public is what does a lot of that. And we
I
just don't have them here. So
I also think that I think a lot of the stuff so it's twofold. If you're to make the comparison directly to Worlds, right? Like it's twofold from my
mhm.
experience. First one is you have Riot, who is very self-interested in making their own, lead up content, right? Like everything builds to this. Just like TI does in theory, like the year builds to TI, but there's like a season and Worlds is the Super Bowl, right? Like they're a content machine and they probably have across the globe, I would say conservatively 100 employees whose literal whole job it is to make content for League of Legends, and at this time all of them are making content for Worlds, right? And
Mhm.
that's probably legitimately about 100 people who do that. Valve has nobody in theory, right? So you're
Yeah,
not.
they have the film team that creates content specifically for the TI broadcast itself.
Mm-hmm. But
But
that's
like
not that's not preview.
we're yeah, exactly. We're not getting any of the preview stuff. We're not getting some of like the documentary pieces like before TI or something like that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's
And then
nothing like that. So,
also, all of the teams make content for Worlds by and large. All the teams are making
yeah.
content for Worlds too, because
Yeah.
there's an inherent value of their world storyline and what's going on, and there's positive ROI for teams to like gain fans and heart share by doing stuff for people who are going to be watching Worlds. Now, that's just not an ecosystem that exists in Dota, like at all,
Yeah.
because of player owned organizations, because of people not really watching content, because of I mean mostly those two.
Yeah.
And the third one being like the numbers of spend on it being funky, right? Like, so for example, to make, if you go and watch the Lil Nas X parody that Liquid did with Avali and Captain Flowers and Raz for Worlds that we just dropped today or yesterday or whatever you would listen to this, you'll see that, like, just think about what that costs to make, right? You have talent for 3 people, right? There's a full shoot day with 4 people behind the scenes. There's a director, there's a producer, there's 3 editors who are working around the clock on that nonstop. There's a graphics person. All those people cost money, if nothing else, right? That project conservatively probably cost about $10,000, which is like
I
amortized over
was about to say, I feel like that's very conservative.
which is like amortized over salaries, and like some of these
Yeah.
people are Liquid employees, so it's funky, but just say nice even round $10,000 number. You can do that for League of Legends because it helps your brand, it helps gains fans, people like it. There's positive value when you do it.
Yeah.
The idea of spending $10,000 to do that for Dota is a horrible business decision.
Yeah, it's not great. It's like all three things, right? It's like Valve as a developer is not set up to be able to like invest in those sort of things. The ecosystem itself is not set up to incentivize people to do those sort of things. I will say that I think OG, I haven't watched it yet, but I know OG put out some stuff. So shout out to them. Think they put something together to drum up hype for TI. Maybe LGD did as well. There's some LGD video I gotta watch
The LGD video, I think, is from
as well.
last year or from last TI. I
Oh,
don't know if
okay.
there's a current one,
That
and
makes
and the
sense.
OG one I haven't seen yet. But the people working with OG on their stuff, I believe it's Paper Crowns, and they're really good at what they do. Um,
Oh yeah.
I'm interested in watching that too. And rest assured, like in a world where we qualified, we being Liquid qualified for TI, we would have done something. It would have just had to have made sense in like a budgetary constraint and like a scope constraint, right? Because I think any team not doing what OG is doing or what LGD is doing or something in that accord is doing something wrong. Even if
Yeah.
it's not going to light the world on fire, even if you're not going to convert a bunch of fans because Dota fans just care about Puppy and Kuroki and whatever Chinese players their favorite, like you got to give back to the ecosystem a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll also add in one more factor there, which is that I think the community, just the way the community is set up, right? Is like Dota players notoriously only care about Dota. They only care like that is like kind of the mantra that goes around, right? Is that like Dota players don't really care. They care about teams and who's playing for viewership, but they only care about them actually playing. They don't really care about content that's around that. They don't care about the panel that's between that. They don't care about the content that is be created, and like there's just not a hunger for that kind of content. It seems so. Like so, there's just one more reason why. So yeah, it's a weird situation. I don't know how we got here to like from the top to top down. None of it's really incentivized to do that sort of stuff.
One of my goals, big picture goal, I know that we've talked about this a little bit before, but one of my goals is to truly not, I know that I cannot change that. It's asinine and foolish to think that you can just by and large change that. But if I can change some people or gain some fans or garner any amount of appreciation because it's like, oh, I like that this is happening, that's one of my goals, right? Is to just get some Dota fans to recognize that some content is good and that maybe there should be more stuff for TI, and maybe like I like this stuff. Maybe I'm more interested in Dota because of the shoulder stuff that happens around TI. I don't know. It's obviously hard to
When you said shoulder stuff, I literally thought of Crit shouldering No Tail. That's when you said shoulder content, that is literally what I did not think you were talking. I just was like, oh, you're talking about Crit hitting No Tail?
Yep. Yep. Well, I think we made it. Do you need to like sleep?
Yeah, I took a nap. I'm feeling pretty awake, so that's not a good sign. But I'll take a sleeping pill and see if I can actually sleep till a decent time instead of 1:30 a.m. We mentioned voice line chess.
Oh yeah.
I haven't really advertised my chess at all, but I'll do it here on the podcast. Please buy my voice line. Thank you. That's it.
That's it. I did.
Thank you. You bought the bare minimum.
I mean, when you put it like that, it feels rude. It feels rude to just say it like that, Austin. But I did. I bought the amount that I had to in order to put you on my profile and say I bought the amount that I had to in order to say that I did it. To say that I did it, right?
Out of curiosity, what'd you think of the voice lines? Ooh, like any ones that really stand out? If he's gonna make a fucking shitload of money, Jesus Christ!
I can't wait to
It's
find out
so funny. The top sellers is like literally two of the Chinese casters and Effie. It's just like three, women in their voice lines. It's Effie's voice line is great. I don't know what the Chinese casters did, but it's like a combination of like a really good voice line and a lot of simps.
I I none of them really stood out to me.
Okay.
I clicked through all of them once. With the exception of
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
them I didn't understand and I clicked a second time. I haven't played, so I don't know what the voice line talent meta is right now. But like, they all kind of took a similar theme in that they were like somewhat always applicable all chat lines and oftentimes verging on an ounce of comedy. And
yeah.
so like I have some of them because I wanted to support my friends, and then I don't know if I'm gonna go back and purchase any additional ones for actual use in game. I'm also not like a voice chat spammer. I think some people had like I think some people had some fun ones, but you know, nothing was like, oh, they killed it.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of agree with that. It's funny about that. Like I'm not a content creator in a traditional sense. I don't like have a YouTube. I
Mhm.
don't I don't think about making things go viral, you know. But like this is the purest form, very capitalistic form of like benefiting from virility. Vi no, that's the
Virality,
wrong word. Yeah, is that can I
virality.
viral? Can I say virality? Do you think that's a word?
Sure.
Because virility is something else.
Are you sure?
Yes. Um, speaking as someone who has a lot of it, Joey. But yes, the being able to profit so much off of the viral nature of the content that you create. Like a YouTube video can generate you a lot of content, but I don't think it really compares to like how insane how much money you can make if your voice line goes like really viral. And I think that's just like something I feel like you almost have to be like a bit of a genius to be able to like figure out culturally what is really going to go viral. And both you have to both be like comedic, but the thing is like Dakota had a great clever voice line, right? Where he's just like insert chat wheel line or something like that, right? He basically didn't do one. He did like, you know, kind of a default one, and it's really clever, right? But I don't think that cleverness is going to net him a shit more. It's not going to go viral, you know. But Effie's laugh, that it goes viral as shit because it's hella tilting, you know. So you have to be a combination of like just understanding people and the psychology that goes on there, also being naturally humorous in some way. Usually, it's wild.
I'm willing to bet that she's gonna make multiple times her TI payday off that voice line.
Probably.
I
This literally this literally may be the biggest paycheck that Effie will ever get in her life.
Which is wild. I
Yeah.
how do you feel about the logistics of them actually taking the chat wheel line and then making it so they can like increment the amount of money you're spending per person to get like rewards for them? Because before you were just getting like a chest that was what, like $5, and you were getting a hat from it, and that's it, and every purchase had to be $5. But now I feel like there's a lot more people who are inclined to give you $1 than $5, and also there's a lot more available content to consume too, in terms of everyone having a voice line versus only having 10 hats.
Yeah. To be honest, like I haven't actually been into Dota since they introduced all this stuff, so I actually haven't really like looked. I don't know what do you get for upgrading the voice
You
line?
get additional autographs. Um
Okay.
every I think 5 levels, every 5 levels you get another autograph, which is like the same system as before. And then you also get like the border around your supporter thing, and level changes to show your support for the person. So like if
I feel
I'm
like
a
that's I feel like that's the like the team packs, that's the useless stuff. You know, like the little banner and the spray, like that's the useless stuff. It's the filler content, but the real meat of it is the voice line at the end, right? That's the thing for the team packs. Is like if you were going to buy one, you're going to buy the highest level one 95% of the time. So in this case, it feels like the opposite, right? Where you get the meat right away,
You only
which
got
is
to
a
you got
little
to spend a
weird.
dollar. You got to spend a dollar.
I feel like Valve's very good at being able to incentivize people at being able to invest more of their money. The Battle Pass is genius level of version of
I
that tactic.
I think that this is strategic in the sense of spreading out wealth between talent. Because
That's a
before
good point.
because
Yeah.
before what you would do is like I would like if I wanted to buy like a trove, I would buy one or two or the amount that I needed, right?
Yeah, I bought one fan pack. Yeah, I can see what you mean.
But
Yeah.
now I have no problem going, "Oh, I can go buy 10 people's $1 voice line and give 10 people 50 cents instead of giving one person 250." Right? So I think
Yeah.
that it might spread out the wealth a little bit more, which is potentially better for you.
I think it's the same for Valve either way, unless the smaller number somehow incentivizes people to be able to spend more. Like you spend $15 for one really good line, or you can have 15 different voice
I,
lines. Maybe they end up buying 20.
I spent more money than I anticipated on fan packs, on fantasy cards, and on people. Like yesterday, to get like my collection up to speed and like get voice lines, I probably dropped like $20, like either buying fan packs for certain teams that I would have never ever bought SG's and Undying's fan pack in their
Yeah.
original iteration. But because they're tied to player cards for fantasy, which I want to play, and because there's rewards, and because they lowered the price by half, which kind of fuck you, Valve, for making me pay full price for before, whatever. But because they lowered the price, and because that, like, I gave money to Undying, which I would have, if you would have asked me that a week ago, I would have been like, why am I ever gonna buy the Undying fan? I don't need to do that. But like, they found ways to get me to purchase the things to give more money to the team. So I think that's a win, and I hate that I can't see, what that would have done for the Liquid fan pack, to see, like, if people needed to get player cards or wanted for this, or a lot of teams, because you get additional points in your compendium for having the fan pack of a team when they win, people are just going to buy fan packs to get more points for every team, or they're going to buy fan packs teams that are winning a lot so they can get more points too, right? So they suddenly took the fan pack situation, which I think was a flop in terms of income, and now I think that for the teams who were actually at TI, it might be pretty good.
Oh, I actually had no idea about that whole fan pack fantasy interaction. That's a really good idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I wonder if they basically took a lot of information they got out of the team fan packs and then like restructured how they would do the talent lines and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's definitely good for talent. Or at least it's good for 90% of the talent. Maybe somehow the top 10% make less in a potential world. But it's definitely a win for most of us. And then seems like a win for Valve as well. So, which is probably the more important win.
As long as they're winning, you'll keep winning because they'll be incentivized to win more. So you want Valve to win, but like, take your
And they also made our voice lines last a year. I was blown away by that. I was just like, what? Like, I did not expect Valve to do that. So it made the product that much better, right? So I was very happy when I saw that. I was like, sick. Thanks, Valve. I didn't expect you to do that.
Also, if I can kind of close the circle on a long running topic for side poll, you finally got a voice line in the game.
Finally got a fucking voice line.
Everybody had to have one. I don't know if you earned it, but you finally got one. So I mean,
people don't know about this, but I did voice lines for the Arkosh fan pack as well. I never talked about this, but the irony of that situation was that I put in some voice lines for the fan pack for Arkosh as well, and none of mine got selected there either. I've literally the
Locked
chances
out.
of me doing it have been like going smaller and smaller, and every single time I somehow miss. I've gone so many years without a voice line. Fan pack was an opportunity to get one, still didn't get one. Then I had to get one. They gave me 100% guarantee. Escalating odds. That's what I've been dealing with for the entire situation until and it finally hit the 100%. So.
Congrats.
Yeah, I don't feel very accomplished.
You literally couldn't have avoided it this time. So I mean, congratulations, friend.
Yeah, yeah. I have no idea. You can check how well your thing is selling. I'm not gonna look. Uh, but I don't think it's selling very well. Let's put it that way. So I feel even less accomplished because I had got the 100% win, but I don't necessarily think that my product is actually doing that well. So,
Well,
but whatever. I got a successful voice acting gig, so fuck all of you.